Fox Sports.
We are Fox Sports. We are Ohio.
You know, I left some balls up, got a little predictable. Some good hitters, man. You know, hitting's contagious. You know, a couple hits. You know, they were kind of racing the bat rack there at the end.
It hurts when you lose a game like, you know, you felt like you should have won. But if anybody will bounce back, it's Cody.
I was one pitch away, you know, pretty much the whole inning. You know, I just couldn't get the result I wanted.
From the magnificent Mile on Michigan Avenue all the way to the south side of Chicago, it's Indians baseball, where tonight the Indians and the White Sox will play Game 2 of this 3-game series. Hi again, everyone. Matt Underwood alongside Rick Manning. Last night was a weird game for the Tribe because for 8 innings they dominated. They only scored the 3 runs, but their pitching behind Trevor Bauer was so masterful that the White Sox only had 4 hits over the first 8 innings, and yet they finished the game with 5 consecutive hits in the ninth.
Yeah, it went from a win to a loss in a hurry, and it was an 0-2 pitch, a hanging breaking ball right there that he squibbed off the end of the bat that got it started. Then a walk. You never want to bring up the tying run to home plate. That wild pitch took the double play out of order, and then the White Sox got into swing mode. They were swinging at everything. They seemed to find every hole. They were 0 for 5 in the first 8 innings. For them, and that's something that could get that offense going. It's not like it was a walk-off home run. Everybody in that lineup was involved in that rally.
And when you're on the other side of it for the Indians, it's like a kick in the gut. We're going to see how they bounce back tonight, because this is a team that, even though it's early in the year, is desperate for a win. And on the hill tonight for the Tribe will be Carlos Carrasco. How will he bounce back from what was a vicious line drive off of his jaw in his last start against these White Sox in Cleveland? We'll find out when we come back. Cleveland Indians baseball is brought to you by WB Mason, the official office supplier of the Cleveland Indians. By McDonald's, I'm loving it. By your local Toyota dealers. Visit buyatoyota.com. Toyota, let's go places. And by the injury lawyers at Elk & Elk, proud sponsors of the Cleveland Indians. Call 1-800-ELK, Ohio. continue their 3-game series. Let's go downstairs to Andre Knott, who has more on the return of Carlos Carrasco.
Absolutely, Matt. He told me when that happened back in Cleveland, it was shock. He was worried that something was broken, and he couldn't even think about anything else but what had just hit him in his face. Over the last couple of days, we've seen the old Carlos Carrasco. He was laughing and talking before the game and said he's excited because he's pitching tonight, and that's all he's worried about. So let's see if that can get going here at U.S. Cellular Field.
Well, with Carlos, when we saw this happen, only the second hitter of the game, it was fear. Nobody knew what to expect. He went down. He was down for quite a while, and the news couldn't have been better. Although we had to wait for it. To see him back in 6 days, it was 6 days ago, he'll have a chance to start again. That is a blessing, really. I mean, all things considered.
And we hope there are no side effects, anything lingering, but we won't really know until he goes out there tonight to face live hitting. And that will happen when we come back. Indians, White Sox, a Tribe team that desperately needs a W. Will they come out swinging tonight and get one? We'll find out next. Ready for baseball now. White Sox have taken the field. Hector Noesi warming it up. The Indians starting lineup that he will face tonight is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. And for Terry Francona tonight, Michael Bourne back in the starting lineup and leading off. Then it's Jason Kipnis, followed by Michael Brantley. Carlos Santana. Brandon Moss returns to the lineup batting fifth. David Murphy bats sixth. Then it's Chisenhall, Roberto Perez, and Jose Ramirez.
Our Northern Ohio Honda dealer starting pitcher is Hector Noesi. For the White Sox, he is only making his second start this year. His first start came against the Minnesota Twins. Noesi is 1-1 in his career against the Indians. It'll be his fifth start against the Tribe. Tribe hitters at just .240 off him. He was 1-1 last year. We'll see what he has to offer, but it's a right-hander, so left-handers, go ahead and dig in. He was 6-7 in this ballpark last year.
Noesi into the line, and tonight's first pitch is a fastball on the outside corner for a strike. Michael Bourne Batting an even 200 so far on the year. 1 ball, 1 strike. Swing and a miss. Bourne falls behind in the count. On the year, Michael with 9 hits in 45 at bats. And he pops one up on the infield. The shortstop, Alexei Ramirez, has it 1 away.
Let's take a look at that Sox defense, brought to you by Chrysler. In the outfield, it's going to be Cabrera in left, Eaton is in center, Garcia in right. Gillespie at third, Ramirez at short, Johnson is at second, Abreu at first, Tyler Flowers doing the catching.
Crew chief Eric Cooper behind the plate tonight. Dan Bellino at first, Lance Barksdale at second, Quinn Walcott down at third. Jason Kipnis 0 for 4 last night in his return to Chicago. And he takes the first pitch strike.
That was just the 3rd time in 28 career games here where Kipnis did not have a hit in a ball game in this park.
Up high. Yeah, normally he thrives here in Chicago. Indians will get a bonus trip to the Windy City this year. They'll play the Chicago Cubs in interleague play.
Just a 2-gamer. That'll be 4 straight games. We come here, we'll play the Cubbies too, and then go right back home, and they'll come to Cleveland.
No SE. Long look in at catcher Tyler Flowers, who came on late in last night's game. Trying to run it in and upstairs. Kipnis got a piece of it to stay alive. Michael Brantley waiting on deck. Just underway here in Chicago on another brisk evening with that wind whipping around 20+ miles an hour. Out of play. Now the 1 and the 1-2. Right at the second baseman, Micah Johnson, 2 down. Our window system's game time temperature tonight 46 degrees, clear skies, but it is cold thanks to that wind that's coming in.
Yeah, that's the
out of the west, 21 to 35 miles an hour.
Yeah, they got to dress in layers if they're going to sit and watch this one.
Michael Brantley last night 1 for 4 with a double and a run batted in. Wessie down and in with that fastball. 2 balls, no strikes. Toward the line, makes the catch, and the inning is over. Tribe goes 1, 2, 3. Chicago coming to bat. Toyota. Adam Eaton, Melky Cabrera, and Jose Abreu. Then it's Adam LaRoche, Avisail Garcia, Connor Gillespie, Alexei Ramirez, Tyler Flowers, and Micah Johnson.
Northern Ohio Honda dealer starting pitcher is Carlos Carrasco. 6 days ago, he had that start in Cleveland where he took the line drive. He'll come right back, pitch against the same team. He only lasted 2 hitters in that game. Both reached, both came around to score. He took the loss in the game. But it's good to see him back, and we'll see how he feels in the first inning.
His first pitch of the night is a good fastball right down Broadway at 96 miles an hour. There are 2 different elements to the start tonight for Carrasco. There's the physical, and then there's the mental. Physical in terms of the injury, I think that's fine. I mean, he's still going to be sore for a while from that, but there's nothing physically that would hamper his performance. But physically, you wonder with going that long between starts how his arm will react, how his command will be.
Well, he pitched a bullpen on Friday. And, you know, hopefully that'll be fine. I'm waiting to see if he gets another ball hit back up the middle, if anything will happen to him, because it's like when a hitter gets hit in the head or in the face or something like that. It's how do you react that next at bat or when you see something close inside.
Well, you look down in Miami, and I think that was the issue with Giancarlo Stanton, because he got hit in the face and never had a chance to bat again until all the way till spring training. So it's good for Carrasco in one sense, Rick. You want to, I think, get back out there as soon as possible.
Yes, he feels good about it. And I mean, I don't think he'll have any ill effects.
The 1-2. Hit on the ground, foul.
Like we talked about, anytime something like that happens and you see it there, whether it's a guy on your team or any other team, you fear the worst until you find out about it. And it was all good with Carrasco. It certainly didn't look that way when he went down.
Trying to put Adam Eaton away to start the game. The 1-2. The off-speed pitch got a piece of it. Eaton last night was 1 for 3 with 2 walks. And a good fastball sinking away at 97 miles an hour. 1 down. Now this was the play back in Cleveland. That was it. This batter that's coming up, Melky Cabrera, who hit the liner. It was off the end of the bat. But even with that, Cabrera just never had, or I should say Carrasco never had a chance to get out of the way.
Well,
now low ball 1.
yeah, and Cabrera, a guy that's hitting .545. He's 6 for 11 off Carrasco in his career.
1 ball, 1 strike, and Cabrera was visibly shaken on the play in Cleveland, and he was relieved to hear after the ball game that Carrasco was okay and that everything looked to be fine. There's the 1-1. Threw it right by him. That was up to 98 miles an hour.
You think he feels a little strong today?
I think we've answered the question as to whether or not there would be any physical limitations. He's commanding the baseball well right here at the outset. Fastball a little bit out of the zone. 2-2. Low pitch, and Cabrera chased after it, strikes him out, 2 down. And Carlos Carrasco starts the game with back-to-back Ks.
Let's make this our Circle K strikeout. A good slider going down, Swinging over the top of it is Cabrera. He tried to get Eaton to do the same thing. He fouled it off, but Cabrera couldn't touch that pitch, so he starts the game out back-to-back Ks.
Now Jose Abreu, who was 1 for 4 last night, and that one hit came his first time up when he just feathered a base hit into right field.
Yep, pushed it to right field. His first at bat, first pitch, fastball up and in.
Looked like a changeup that, if it missed, it didn't miss by much. 1-1. Foul tipped it into the glove of Roberto Perez. And Carrasco, I think he's thrown almost all of his pitches here in this first inning. We've seen a good fastball, slider, changeup.
I wasn't sure if that one there was a changeup or a breaking ball, but it was a good pitch. It was moving.
The 1-2. Tried to paint the fastball and just missed.
When you're throwing it at 97 and you put it down there, hitters, if they started the swing, they couldn't hit it anyway. That's why they take it. So if you can keep it in that area, only get down there for a strike, there's no way they're going to hit it.
He hung that one in the middle of the plate, and Abreu clobbered it. And the White Sox will play from in front.
Well, that was a mistake. You said it. There was a slider that stayed right there, more of a spinner than a slider, and this is a guy that can do some damage. Let's take a look at that pitch on our Nissan pitch tracker when we get an opportunity. See, that almost backed up.
Yeah, it sure did.
It stayed middle third of the plate, and this big man, he doesn't miss it when he gets opportunities, and he will leave the yard. That is his 4th home run. So the Sox will get an early 1-0 lead here.
And Adam LaRoche will be the batter, DHing tonight for Chicago. And the pitch down and in, ball 1. LaRoche last night 0 for 4, struck out 3 times. Good pitch.
Yeah, he started off the 9th inning with a strikeout. Allen just worked him, and he went down looking at a fastball right there, but that was the last out he'd get in that inning.
Just missed outside to put LaRoche ahead in the count, 2-1. Pop back to the screen. 2 balls, 2 strikes. As Carlos Carrasco tries to work through this first inning after giving up the 2-out solo homer to Jose Abreu. Oh, nasty. Downstairs, LaRoche swung over the top. Carrasco strikes out 3 in the first, but Jose Abreu gets Chicago on the board first. Here's the keys to the game, brought to you by Wayside Furniture. Early response. Indians need to bounce back after a gut-wrenching loss last night, and they're down early 1-0. And the state of Carrasco, and from what we've seen so far, he looks just fine.
He's throwing fine.
Carlos Santana will lead off the second for the Tribe, and Hector Noesi with a fastball in there for strike one. Santana almost chased after it, and on the appeal that he did not go around. Bouncer foul. Yeah, you got a couple of pitchers squaring off tonight that know a little something about perseverance. We know Carlos Carrasco went through a long spell where he didn't taste victory, and the same thing goes for Hector Noesi, who had a 14-game losing streak come to an end last year. That spanned 40 appearances.
Yeah, that's a long time. Yeah, once you get into the bullpen, you know, they work you to get back in. If it was all starters starting, that would be a different story.
Down in the dirt.
But he spent 3 different teams last year before he landed here with the Sox.
Yeah, he started with Seattle, that got traded to Texas, and then ended up here. Oh, Santana tees off, sends one to deep right, and it is gone to Souvenir City. That clears the bullpen in right field and ties the game at 1. Santana's 3rd home run on the year is an 8 runs batted in, and we just like that, we're back to even.
All right, they trade solo homers. Santana his 3rd. High fastball he gets on top of. Listen to the crack. Oh, that's a thud.
He got it.
Yes, he did. All right, game back to even for both pitchers. It's their first homer allowed this year, but this is only the 2nd start for Noesi.
Brandon Moss. They fire it up above the belt and misses. 1 ball, 1 strike. Good fastball, had a little movement. And the 1-2, Moss dancing out of the way, ball right down at his feet. And Moss strikes out. Good off-speed pitch. First strikeout for Noesi, 1 down here in the 2nd inning. Let's go downstairs to Andre Knott. What's your sense on how this team will respond after what happened last night?
Well, if you're in the clubhouse, I think they turned the page quickly, guys. You know, Tito Francona said, look, it's hard to turn the page, but you have to. It took some take a tad longer to digest. He goes, and last night was one of those. But he says this is part of the game. So if you were in the clubhouse today, the guys were loose and ready to get back on the field and play.
That's the one thing about baseball. When you come out here, you know, and you have a tough loss and you lose one like that, you get back up, and you got to think about today's game. You don't have time to dwell on it, which is good sometimes in a game like last night. Same thing on the other side. If you come back and win it, you know, you got to come back and play another ball game. They'll be ready to go. Thing I already like, they came back, they responded to that run that the Sox put on the board, and they did it with 1 swing of the bat.
Murphy jolts one to right center field. Eaton a long sprint into the gap, makes the catch in the middle of the warning track for out number 2. Murphy put a pretty good charge into that ball, but it falls short. 2 down here in the second inning.
You can see Eaton has a long way to go, but plenty of time to get there. As a center fielder, you just run him down. If it has enough hang time, which this one did, you get there, you run it down, you put it away.
Now Lonnie Chisenhall fouls one right back. Noesi just rearing back, challenging him with a couple of fastballs. And the count 0-2. Carlos Santana homering for the Tribe here in the inning to tie the game at 1. And another pitch fouled back by Chisenhall. Now the 1-2. Trying to run that pitch up and away.
It's a good pitch. I mean, he's been able to get a couple hitters on that pitch away. And he hasn't messed around. He stayed basically fastball here with Chisenhall. He hasn't messed around with any off-speed pitches to this point.
And Lonnie lifts one to center field where Adam Eaton will make the catch well shy of the warning track. So the Indians with a home run and some wild outs. We're back to even, middle of the second.
All righty, let's take a look at the Indians defense brought to you by Chrysler. It'll be Brantley, Bourne, and Moss in the outfield. Chisenhall, Ramirez, Kipnis, and Santana on the infield, and Perez back behind the plate tonight.
Avisail Garcia 2 for 4 last night with a double and a run scored. And he shoots this one out of play.
You can see the pitcher's blowing into that hand, trying to get a little moisture in there to get a feel for the baseball, because when it's this cold, the balls get a little slick.
He had a swing and a miss. Well, he's had a good slider tonight already. All 4 outs have been via the strikeout for Carrasco. Our AT&T U-verse rewind, we see Carrasco again came out firing with a fastball, then a slider. And one that backed up on him.
Yeah, he backed up on that slider, and that left the ballpark, but every out so far has been the strikeout.
Next up, Connor Gillespie, 1 for 3 last night with a double. Here's a fly ball to left field. Who was that masked man? Michael Brantley.
It's tough to tell, isn't it?
Time for the Buick stat of the game. Carlos Carrasco, we talked about his struggles and how long it was that he went between wins, seemingly forever probably in his mind, but boy,
look at the ERA difference. 4 runs.
Been a different guy. And a lot of it, crazy as this sounds, you know, we talk about all the time, when will the light bulb go off for a guy and when do they sort of figure things out? For him, it was the experience in the bullpen. Michael Bourne tried to cut it off. Alexei Ramirez is going to force the issue. He'll go for 2. The throw, not in time.
Boy, he almost stuck into the dirt there. It didn't look like his hands got out in front of him. I'm not so sure his head didn't plant into the dirt as he went head first to second. He did push the issue, and not a bad thought with 2 outs. Get yourself into scoring position because the ball was a little to the left of Bourne in center field. So what you do as a base runner, you force it, make him make a good throw, and he beats that throw to second base. Not much on it, but you can see that slide head first. Watch his arms. They're barely out in front. He got stuck.
Oh, yeah. His hand got stuck in the dirt.
It got stuck behind him, and he couldn't. The left one did, and he almost hit that his head on the bag, and that really would have hurt.
He definitely got a face full of dirt. 4th double of the season for Ramirez. And up comes Tyler Flowers. But for Carrasco, the light bulb going off moment for him was the experience in the bullpen that taught him to be more aggressive, that he didn't have to worry about what's going to happen in 2 innings from now or 3 innings from now. Just focus on this hitter right now and then move on to the next one after that.
Different perspective, and you know, who thought it would have taken that long?
Hammered foul by Flowers. Hit that baby deep down the left side.
Well, it came down. They talked Tito into giving him one more start. Between Callaway and Casher was here, and boy, he took advantage of it, didn't he? That crack, and it might have been his last chance for a start, and he just ran with it. And it turns into a 4-year deal. That's what happened.
Well, he was so good in the second half last year when he got that opportunity that, granted, it's not a full season of work, but in that second half, his numbers side by side with Kluber,
yeah, he was
equally, if not even more impressive.
He had the best ERA in baseball from August 10th on. And you're right, it's not a full season, but that's his goal, is to continue to do the same thing this year throughout the whole season.
He's got such an easy 95 to 98 miles an hour. Not like some of these guys, you look at them and then they're grunting or they're recoiling. He just seems to, with ease, flick it up there, and it's pow, 98 miles an hour.
They say that ball just jumps out of his hand.
Alexei Ramirez at second with 2 down.
And it's just not a fastball. It's a slider. He's got a nice changeup. This is a stat where the White Sox have been very good this year with runners in scoring position. Been one of the better teams in all of baseball as far as hitting. There you go, 2 for 3 with a homer and 4 ribbies with 2 outs and runners in scoring position. Not too shabby. That's the key. When you get hits, you may not get a lot of hits. It's timely hits. And when you get those hits with runners in scoring position and can get a runner home, that's That's the big thing. Like last night, 0 for 5 going into that 9th inning. They were 5 for 5 in the 9th inning.
Flowers fouling it off. One ball game, bottom of the 2nd inning. Carrasco taking a little extra time as he and Perez are trying to get on the same page here. No. Yep, I'll take that one. Got him looking. Looked like a changeup that just did catch the bottom of the zone. Eric Cooper brings up Tyler Flowers. Good 5 Ks for Carrasco.
Back in 2015 with the MLB.com at bat on your smartphone or tablet. Stay connected with live radio broadcasts, stats, breaking news, and more. Download MLB.com at bat, the #1 app for live baseball.
Roberto Perez takes a fastball for strike 1. And a foul back. Roberto Perez, couple of home runs on the year.
A couple of long home runs.
Boy, they're not.
You
No
remember
cheapies.
the one in Houston and then the one in Minnesota. Both about 430 plus feet.
435, I think, was the exact tally in Minnesota. Or in Minnesota. I don't remember what the one in Houston was.
It was up there. It was up near Yosemite Sam up there where he stands.
It hit that little railing above the wall. Only 23 at bats for Perez so far this year, but 6 hits. Good eye there. It's 2-2. Down low. Oh, he had a pitch to hit, fouled it back.
Swing. Say, Perez, he can get on a fastball. They want to go away with it. It is. And he fouled it off with a pretty good swing. I think what Roberto's going to do is, as the year goes on, he gets more at bats. He's going to learn how to cut that swing down a little bit and take it to right field. And then he pulls a string on that one and he gets the strikeout.
Second for Noesi. One down here in the third.
Yeah, you stay on the baseball, you get to 2 strikes, you have maybe a little different approach and you shorten your swing. After he got on that fastball and fouled it off, he says, okay, if he's on that, he can't stay back for this one. Threw the changeup and got the strikeout. But you file that one back.
Jose Ramirez.
It's all part of the learning process when you're getting an opportunity to get 3-4 at-bats every game. And he's sitting in the bottom of the lineup, so the way this team's hit, it's a lot of times it's only 3 at-bats a game.
2-0 for Ramirez. Foul right back. Jose Ramirez 7 for 39 on the year. Remember, it was from this side of the plate when he belted his first home run of the year in that opening series down in Houston. Not a guy you expect to hit a lot of home runs, but
you see it leave the ballpark, you're shocked.
Popped him up. And Alexei Ramirez 2 down. Gear up for the second annual Velosano Bike Ride for Cancer Research, July 17th through the 19th. There's an option for everyone with 6 different routes that start and finish in downtown Cleveland. They include 1- and 2-day rides. Every dollar raised by Velosano participants benefits cancer research at Cleveland Clinic. So spread the word and bike to cure. Get involved by visiting velosano.org. With 2 down, Michael Bourne shows bunt but pulls the bat back. It's ball 1.
Well, if Borney bunts in a situation like this and gets a base hit, then you have to steal second base to get yourself in scoring position.
Takes it low. 2 balls and a strike. And a fly ball to center field. Adam Eaton makes the catch. Indians go 1-2-3. And we'll go to the bottom of the third, tied at 1. Just a reminder as you enjoy a cold one to stay tuned later in the game for Miller Time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Oh, I love that guy's hat. You see that guy to the left over there?
No.
No, that's a lid.
Right there. Let me see it.
It's got the earmuffs built in.
Oh, yeah. Mink skull cap.
That's outstanding. Micah Johnson, 1 for 2, singled and stole a base last night. Bounces it in the hole and a base hit.
The Sox have a hit in every inning so far. It's the first time they've had their leadoff man aboard. Johnson had a stolen base last night, I believe. Yes, he did back in the third.
First time through the order. White Sox 3 for 9.
Let it go. Oh, he got it. Yeah.
That'll be a bunt single for Adam Eaton.
You know what? I don't think it would have rolled foul, but that would have been your only chance because it got onto the dirt and it stayed there and it was hit pretty hard. Chisenhall looking at the board now to see if he should have let it go, but I think it would have stayed fair, to be honest with you, Matt. It was bunted hard enough. There wasn't much time for it to hook. But you pick it up and put it in your pocket. That's just a flat out a good bunt. So it's now first and second on back-to-back singles.
Now they've got the inning set up for the heart of the order. Melky Cabrera, Jose Abreu, and Adam LaRoche. Cabrera struck out his first time up. And a foul on a play to the left. Our Levin player profile on Melky Cabrera. Big offseason contract in excess of $40 million signed here in Chicago. It was his former teammate in New York, Derek Jeter, who nicknamed him Leche, the Spanish word for milk. There have been variations of the milkman reference all over him in his career, though.
Yeah.
From the Milky Way to, he had a cheering section in San Francisco that was known as the Milkmen.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing those guys dressed in white.
Swing and a miss.
It's a different world out there. The Panda. Very good changeup by Carrasco here. Watch the swing. Good movement going down and away, and Cabrera couldn't stay back on it.
Remember, he struck him out on a slider that just the bottom fell out of it in the first inning.
Yeah, what's he do here? He can go either way. Come back with that slider down and in, same pitch, or go back away with it.
To second, Kipnis goes to Ramirez for one, back to first, double play.
Nice pitch, nice turn.
Very well turned by Kipnis and Ramirez. And now Micah Johnson's at third with 2 down.
Well, it's hit on the nose, and Kipnis is able to give a good feed to Ramirez, and they turn it easily. Just what Carrasco needed, that double play.
Now Jose Abreu, who homered his first time up.
Carrasco, a lot of changeups to this point early, you know, even to the right-handed hitters, which is fine.
7 career home runs already for Jose Abreu.
Yeah.
I always find the notion of a first pitch changeup interesting. As Abreu fouls it out of play.
There's nothing to change up off your fastball. Is that what you mean?
Because I'm thinking most hitters are. I mean, I guess you're geared for the fastball, so.
If they've seen it once already, okay, but the first time you faced them, I could agree where you don't want to change up off of what? You're changing up off of nothing.
Yeah.
At least if they see your fastball the first time and they know you're throwing 95, 96,
they might go up there a little over aggressively.
Yes, yeah. Then they might.
Well, look at Roberto Perez can't find it. Throws to first, got him somehow. Oh, baby. What a play by Roberto Perez. I'm not sure if that ball didn't go right through Jose Abreu, but somehow he has no lane to throw in, but he gets it through him, and they get out and out of the inning.
It is hockey weather out there.
Playoff hockey season, especially here in Chicago. Jason Kipnis leading off. Arkia in the driver's seat. Shows you that Jason Kipnis has always swung the bat well here at his home away from home, U.S. Cellular Field. He went to the the Blackhawks skate around this morning.
He didn't put any skates on, did he?
I don't think they'd allowed him. Oh, he tried to hold up, but he went around. And that's 3 Ks for Noesi. One down here in the 4th.
It was a fastball that was about letter high. Jason started at it and wasn't able to hold up or foul it off. So he checks his swing, but he couldn't stay back. So it goes down as a strikeout victim.
Now Michael Brantley just missed. He caught one off just a little bit off the end of the bat in the 1st inning. And his fly ball died just shy of the warning track in the right field corner. That's ripped foul on the right side. Up high, but no chase from Michael Brantley.
He's tried that a number of times today. He gets ahead. Comes at you with that changeup, or he'll elevate the fastball and try and throw it away. to get you to pull off on it.
In and out of the glove.
Just like that. Those are the ones that go into the catcher's glove. There's nothing they can do to work on that. You just see it didn't hit him directly in the pocket. If it goes off the thumb or the top part of the padded glove, that's which it usually does. It just kicks out of there.
Now the 1-2 to Michael. And a foul right back. Well, the White Sox have been getting better pitching since their first 4 games, in which they got clobbered, allowing 27 runs in 33 innings. Since then, though, that last 8 games, their pitching has yielded just a 3.50 earned run average.
Yeah,
that'll keep you in every game.
Yeah, they ended up opening up against Kansas City, and that offense was pretty good. But the bullpen's been very good too in that stretch too.
How about a 1.25 ERA?
Right.
In their last 8 games for the bullpen.
Very good. Their rebuilt bullpen, as we've talked about it.
Noesi with a 2-2. And Brantley with a bouncer to first. Abreu with a nice backhand. 2 down. Here's our Yellowwood bringing the lumber. Let's go back to the 2nd inning when Carlos Santana said goodbye. Crunched it.
That was the swing that tied it up. Yes, he did. That's when you can get on top of a high fastball, and Carlos is one of the few guys that can do that. They go a long way. Those left-handers, good low ball hitters. But he was able to get on top of the high one there.
Kind of hard to figure, as much as the Indians have played the White Sox, that Santana, that's only his 6th career home run against Chicago. Just over the 100 homer mark in his career.
He has more than that. He has 9 home runs in Target Field.
Yeah. Overall, Santana's career average against Chicago, 238. So they have pitched him tough. Upstairs, 2-0, or make it 3-0. And ball full. Oh. Called a strike. Santana's asking Eric Cooper now, wait a minute.
Courtesy call. Stay here, swing the bat.
Well, with 2 outs, Santana waits the 3-1. Well, if you're going to call the one before, you got to call that one.
I think Santana was looking away on that pitch as well, but he came inside with it.
Payoff pitch. And it is ball 4.
Well, the Tribe will take on the Toronto Blue Jays Friday, May 1st, and you can save on tickets. You buy a lower box or a lower reserve ticket for that game by April 27th, and you'll save 25%. Just go to Indians.com/buy early. Get your tickets today.
Brandon Moss struck out in the 2nd inning. And that pitch up and away, ball 1. Moss has collected a hit in 3 straight games. As Santana takes off, he swings and misses, and he's got a stolen base.
Yes, he does.
Carlos with his 2nd steal of the year. He has yet to be caught.
Why? You know, they don't pay attention to you, and you know that over there. And I'm sure Sandy's helping them out. If you get to jump, take off. They're not going to pay attention to you. They're playing that shift over there. So why not? He has 2 stolen bases now, especially with 2 outs. Take the chance.
The 1-1 now for Moss. Popped up, foul, out of play.
Watch see where they're shifting now, and he takes off. So second baseman's got to go over and cover Johnson. And he does, as Ramirez is going over to third base as we speak. But he had a great jump. Not a base stealer, but you can steal some. No, they're not paying attention to you.
Upstairs to Moss, 2-2. Outfield for Moss, straight up and deep. Still the only hit of the game for the Indians, the homer by Santana. And Moss strikes out to end the 4th. Well, Fox Sports lost a beloved member earlier today as NASCAR commentator Steve Burns passed away after a long battle with cancer. All of us at Sports Time Ohio express our condolences to the Burns family, his wife Karen, and son Bryson.
Tickets start at just $10 for kids 12 and under with the purchase of an adult ticket. Kids tickets are located in the new family deck at Progressive Field, home to the expanded Kids Clubhouse. Log on to Indians.com.
Adam LaRoche swings and fouls it back. He struck out his first time up. Carrasco has fanned 6 White Sox through the first 3 innings. Slowly tap, and with the shift on, Jose Ramirez will throw him out. Here's our great clip of the game from yesterday. Trevor Bauer just keeps mowing him down. He went 7 innings, allowed 4 hits, no runs, walked 2, struck out 7.
Yeah, he's off to a tremendous start. He's dealing out there. Can't pitch much better than Trevor has for the first 3 games, that's for sure.
To center field, and Michael Bourne takes care of that. 2 down. Our T-Mobile game changer, Rick, 26 strikeouts in his first 3 starts. That's the most by an Indian since Sudden Sam punched out 31 back in 1970. In 1964, McDowell had 33 strikeouts in his first 3 starts. That's the most by an Indian since 1914. One more than Bob Feller, who fanned 32 in his first 3 starts in 1939.
And those are the 2 names that always pop up when you're looking at pitchers' records. It's Sudden Sam and it's Bob Feller.
Yep.
You know, when you're talking strikeouts and numbers like that. We witnessed it all last year when Kluber was, you know, breaking records and doing things that he did last year. You got to go back a long time, and those names always pop up.
You know, Rick, Mike Pachta did some good research on this with his friends at Stats Inc. You know who's second behind Sudden Sam in the last 100 years on that list? Also with Bob Feller, who had 32 strikeouts in his first 3 games.
I do not.
Stan Williams in 1967
Okay.
had 32 Ks in his first 3 starts.
Okay, Stan Williams.
There's a foul back out of play. One ball, 2 strikes, 2 down here in the 4th inning. Connor Gillespie flied to left in the 2nd inning. And he just got a piece of that to stay alive. This is not to take anything away from the great numbers that Carrasco, Bauer, Kluber and pitchers have put up in recent years. But boy, we are seeing strikeouts really on the increase, on the rise.
Yeah, that could be. I mean, these guys have very good arms. Some of the guys we're watching strike out a lot of people. But hitters now, too, they don't change swings. They go after and they have that same approach.
And Gillespie goes down hacking. 7 strikeouts for Carlos Carrasco through 4. We are tied at 1. Your Northern Ohio Honda dealers. By the Cleveland Clinic. Call for an appointment today. And by the game-changing all-new Ford F-150. The future is tough. Frosty evening here in Chicago. Game time temperature 46 degrees. And we had pretty good wind whipping around earlier. It's died down a little bit. David Murphy flied to deep center his first time up. The Indians have 1 hit so far tonight. It was a home run by Carlos Santana. Their only other base runner came when Santana walked into 4th.
Yeah,
now David Murphy. Did he get all of this one? You bet he did. Murphy with his first home run of the year. He fell just shy in the second inning when his ball died on the warning track. This time he juiced it all the way up into the seats, and the Indians take a 2-1 lead.
Well, you talk about taking advantage of your hits. 2 hits, 2 home runs, 2-1 lead. This will be our McDonald's. I'm loving it. And Murph got one down in his wheelhouse, and he gives it a ride. So for the second straight at bat, hit it on the nose. This one leaves the ballpark, his first this year.
Lonnie Chisenhall tops one up the first base line. It's going to go foul. You see Murphy smiling. I got all that one. That one wasn't going to come up short. Every home run the Indians have hit via the solo method so far this year.
All 11. All on the road. Yet to hit one at home, but then we haven't been there very long.
The only 5 games played at Progressive Field to this point. Hector Noesi. And it's fouled back over the screen by Lonnie. Pretty good perspective right there on that ball.
That's what they call it, light tower power.
No, Ryan Rayburn sitting next to Murphy there on the bench. He clobbered one last night. Now the 1-2 to Chisenhall. Right back to Noesi. One away. Time for a Mazda game break. Here's Al Pulowski. Al Albuquerque pitching in that game for the Tigers now.
That's every day, Al. I'm sure we'll see him 2 times this weekend.
Roberto Perez cuts and misses, struck out his first time up. I'm sure there were some days at Old Cleveland Stadium, even though you grew up in Niagara Falls, that you would have loved to have had the modern technology we have now as far as the cold weather gear.
When you were on the lake, yeah, there was some really cold days.
Was it colder at Cleveland Stadium or Exhibition Stadium?
It's a good question.
Because it just didn't seem like in Toronto there was anything to block the wind. At least at Cleveland Stadium.
It was almost like a soccer stadium.
Yeah.
There wasn't much to block the wind there on the lake anyway. I don't know, man. That's a good question. It was cold on both of them, both fronts. They didn't have the leggings and stuff they do. I used to wear pantyhose. Don't tell anybody, though. Plastic bags to wrap your feet.
Yeah, I remember that trick. Didn't work for me. Well, I remember being a kid going out in the snow in the wintertime. Still froze.
Well, it's not to say it wasn't cold. It kept them from getting wet, though.
Even like thermal long johns.
Yeah, we used to wear those. Yep. You have to be moving around, though. It's tough when you're standing out there. You know, the pitcher and catcher are basically in on every pitch.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so those guys can stay relatively warm. But when you're out there and you're not getting a lot of action.
Perez rung up, 2 down. 5th strikeout for Noesi.
It can make for a long day or a night. And that sums it up right there. That blanket, keep your legs warm. You've got the hoodie on, scarf around, gloves on. She's not moving, but I know she's warm.
Dressed more for a Bears game at Soldier Field than a.
Well, you were at one of those here. Was it this year?
2 years ago, came for a Bears Monday night game.
How did that
First of all, who goes to a night game in December in Chicago? That's not real smart.
You do.
It was a night
Mike Ditka
was honored at halftime.
Did he even wear sleeves? Probably didn't have a jacket on, did he? He probably came in shorts, smoking a cigar.
Now that part might have been true, yeah. Two balls, no strikes. As Jose Ramirez awaits the pitch and pops it up. Alexei Ramirez, for the second time today, grabs the pop up off the bat of Jose Ramirez. But David Murphy, oh, did he get down and get after it? The Indians lead it 2-1. Go to the bottom of the fifth. Bottom third of the White Sox order due up. Alexei Ramirez, Tyler Flowers, and Micah Johnson. Carlos Carrasco has given up 4 hits. A solo homer to Jose Abreu back in the first, accounting for Chicago's lone run.
Yeah, last inning was Carlos's first 1-2-3 inning of the game.
You know, Rick, we forget. You look back at spring training for Carrasco. Andre talked to Mickey Callaway before the game. You know, he missed a little bit of time because he had his own illness issue he had to deal with. He missed some time for the birth of one of his children.
Right.
So Mickey said, you know, we were still in the process before the line drive last week at home, in the process of kind of stretching him out and getting him built up. So they're probably, you know, you point out the first 1-2-3 inning. He's still probably trying to get to where he wants to be as far as being a complete pitcher right now.
Well, it takes time, and you know, you consider it. You don't consider it well. It is numbers-wise a start, but he went to 2 hitters. So you go back to the first game, and that was back in Houston when he pitched.
Yep.
You know, sure, you can go and throw on the side. You simulate. You do things. It's not game situations. But I'll tell you, he has great stuff here tonight.
Yeah, it's a lot easier to throw a changeup or a slider in an imaginary setting.
With nobody there, yeah, with no game on the line. It's nice and relaxed and nobody's there, but you got that hitter in the box, you got an umpire behind your catcher, you know, and it counts.
A couple of ground balls to third. Lonnie Chisenhall getting some action here in the 5th inning.
You know, when you look at his strikeouts tonight, the changeup and slider have been devastating. There's that little slider down and in. Changeup going straight down. Again, changeup. Again. So he's had a good one, boy. He has had a nasty one.
Well, and last night, that was a big pitch for Trevor Bauer.
Yes, it was.
He really worked off of his changeup.
Boy, you know, in the cold weather and something like this, if you can throw a fastball changeup and command it and just show a breaking ball every now and then, you can be very successful, because those guys, they both have great arms. They both throw in the mid-90s. But
there's
look
another
at, I
one.
mean, the changeup, it's got movement. It's just not a straight change. It's an easy pitch there that they're getting a feel for. I would think it's tougher to throw a breaking ball in the cold weather like this, as slick as the baseballs are.
Popped the bunt back over the screen. And it's 1-2. Swing and a miss. Got him to chase one in the dirt. Flips to first. Ends the inning. 8 Ks for Carrasco. He has set down 8 in a row. Elk. Bad news for the Brewers. First they lose Jonathan Lucroy to a broken toe, and then Scooter Gennett, he's in the shower. He's reaching for some soap in the dispenser. He catches his hand on the side of the shower rack, slices it open. He needs 5 stitches, and now he's on the 15-day deal.
Oh boy.
Let's go down to Andre. What's the latest on the Indians walking wounded?
Begin his rehab assignment in Columbus tomorrow. Nick Swisher, he'll begin his Friday in Columbus. So the Indians are getting a little bit healthier as they get.
Hey, Andre, just hold up. We didn't have your mic up when you started there. Could you hit that again for us?
Yeah, I got no.
Sorry.
No problem. Zach Walters will begin his rehab assignment tomorrow in Columbus, and then Nick Swisher, who will play right field exclusively, will start his on Friday. And they're going to try to get him a lot of action because they're tired of him playing at 1 o'clock in Arizona. But he'll start on Friday in Columbus.
All right, good news there. Thanks, Andre. Michael Bourne, 0 for 2 tonight, 2 ball, 1 strike count. To first, little slip there by Abreu, but he's able to hold up and get the out. In-game recap brought to you by your local Toyota dealers. Jose Abreu with a 2-out homer in the first gave Chicago the 1-0 lead. Indians came right back in the second. Carlos Santana crunches one. And then in the fifth, David Murphy put the Indians in front. All solo homers, and that's all the scoring so far tonight.
Yeah, there's 3 runs in the ball game. There's 6 hits in the ball game. Both the Indians' hits have left the park.
A ball came in from the bullpen, I think.
Yeah, it sure did. That's a wild pitch.
Down low. Right back by the glove of Noesi and into center field. And Jason Kipnis has his first hit of the series, a 1-out single here in the 6th. Scott Atchison up in the Indians bullpen. He's either just getting some work in.
Well, Carrasco's he hasn't thrown that many pitches, has he?
I don't think so. Now you see there, Noesi's at 93 pitches, and that's Carlos Rodon, the guy they just called up, their left-handed phenom who was a 3rd overall pick in last year's draft. Yeah, Carrasco's only at 60 pitches.
Wow.
It could just be that, you know, Atchison is getting some work in. Let me see here. The last time he pitched was,
it's been a while,
5 days, 6 days ago, 5-6 days ago. Let's see, April, can't read that, 15th, I believe. A little squibber up the third base line. It's going to stay fair. Throw to first, not in time, and a nice job by Abreu to come off the bag and catch the ball. Otherwise, that's down the line in foul territory, and the Indians are still running the bases.
Yeah, that's a ball Gillespie probably should not have thrown, but it was a good play, as you mentioned, by Abreu coming off. Now, I don't think he would have had a chance. Brantley's going to beat it out any way you look at it. He was well past the bag. Well, back-to-back singles now with 1 out.
Well, let's see if the Indians can cash in here. This is where they have had their troubles so far this year. Batting with runners on base.
Yeah.
Now Santana takes a strike. Swing and a miss.
Change of pace right there. Good pitch. Has him out in front.
Last night with runners on base, the Indians were 1 for 8 at the plate, and they began the night dead last in Major League Baseball in terms of batting average with runners on base. The 0-2. And again, I bring that up because that's how the White Sox won the game last night, by sustaining a rally. That's usually how you get an offense out of a slump, by sustaining a rally. So everybody sort of has a hand in it, and
right,
you just build off of that kind of momentum.
Well, it hasn't been that way, and that the way it's gone, it's like tonight. They're solo home runs, and that's how they've scored for the most part.
2-2 the count for Santana. Either way, this is a big at bat in the game. Could be big for the Indians if Santana delivers. It could be big for Chicago if Noesi
can get out of it. Yeah. Could be an add-on point right here.
2-2. Santana puts a charge into one to right field, but it's going to fall well short of the mark. Garcia makes the catch. Kipnis tags and goes to third, but now there are 2 down in the inning. Up comes Brandon Moss, and Robin Ventura going to stay with Noesi. He's got the left-hander Rodon up, and I don't know if he's ready. But is that where you want to bring a rookie in to make his debut?
No, I think he's ready, and I think Noesi has earned the right to stay here. I mean, they're on the phone. You know, he may come in for. No, he's going to make the move. He's going to challenge the young man. That's okay. He's going to him. He did a good job. Only 4 hits today. 2 of them happened to leave the ballpark. So he's going to end up leaving this ball game in the 6th after 5 2/3. No chance to be a winning pitcher, but he certainly can be a loser.
So Hector Noesi is out, and the Cleveland Clinic call to the bullpen for Chicago's other young phenom. Chris Bryant already called up by the Chicago Cubs. Now the White Sox have their prized product of their farm system coming into the ball game to make his debut when we return. Yields to the rookie Carlos Rodon, and he'll be facing Brandon Moss. It's a lefty-lefty matchup. Rodon made 2 starts down at AAA.
He's thrown just 34 in the 3rd innings in the minor leagues. He was the 3rd pick overall in the draft last year. They say he's got great stuff, but they're going to ease him into it. They can pick and choose. They can limit his innings if he comes out of the bullpen. This is the way they used to do it a lot of times in the big leagues, where you can keep your eye on a kid, keep him at the big league level, and he has good enough stuff. Robin Ventura brings him in to a situation here. 2 outs. Left-handed hitter, power hitter. We'll see what he has. Understand he's got a good fastball and a good slider.
And there's an element of the unknown for Brandon Moss.
Right.
Unless by some chance he might have seen him in spring training, which I highly doubt. This is the first time he's had a chance to see this left-hander in action. .97-mile-an-hour fastball away.
You probably amped good up, man. You come in here and you pitch at the big league level, and you're saying, you know, that heart's racing.
Outside, 3 balls, no strikes.
Does have another left-hander on deck, but Terry Francona can always go to the bench and get Ryan Rayburn, who's been swinging a pretty good bat.
Way outside, ball 4, and the bases are now loaded.
Yeah, he didn't even throw a strike.
And Murphy will be called back for a pinch hitter. Will it be Ryan Rayburn? You bet.
I would think so. Boy, he's played against the White Sox in his career, and he's been swinging it. One of the few guys that have been swinging it for the Indians. Oh, he's going to look, but you have to take a strike here. Out of 4 pitches last night, Ryan Rayburn, 4th home run in his career off John Danks. Solo shot, and he was able to hit a double down the other way down the right field line that Garcia sort of helped out. It got into his glove, but he couldn't hold on to it. That went as a double.
Well, the other thing last night, Rick, and I think it was a product of that at bat in which he hit the home run. Rayburn saw a lot of pitches.
Yeah.
Not that he was just up there taking, but fouling pitches off, extending at bats. He saw 26 pitches in his 4 at bats last night. One of those in which he worked a walk in a 10-pitch at bat.
That's good night's work right there when you see a lot of pitches from the pitchers, and he's got to take this one, I would think. First pitch, make this kid get in the strike zone. See if they throw a slider.
It's in the dirt, nicely blocked by Flowers.
You know, he threw 4 fastballs. Now comes Cooper, their pitching coach. He wants to talk to the young man who hasn't thrown a strike yet. He threw 4 straight fastballs to Moss, and he couldn't control it. So what do? Let's slow him down a little bit. Let's call a slider, and he bounces that one in the dirt. So now the pitching coach comes out and tries to lighten it up a little bit and say, come on, young man, you're fine. Trust your stuff, throw strikes, sit down there in the middle of the plate. You've got good enough stuff to get it out.
Rodon was born in Miami, Florida. Went to North Carolina State, where he set the school record, 436 career strikeouts. Only the 4th pitcher in ACC history to get to the 400 strikeout mark. And here he is in his big league debut. And that pitch in off the plate. The crowd howling.
Well, they want to help the kid out. No, don't help the kid out. Make him get in the zone. It's inside. And you still have to take one here. Now you can go to work. 6 straight balls. He finds the strike zone. I would think he's got to throw another heater.
2 outs, bases loaded. 2-1 count for Rayburn. In off the plate, 3 balls and a strike.
Yeah, you get. As a hitter here, you still have to look fastball.
I was just going to ask you.
I don't see where you can call a breaking ball, because if it's a ball, you walk in a run. But he hasn't thrown his fastball for a strike. You could be patient here.
Rayburn lifts it high and foul. Wow, did he tee off?
Well, he was thinking the same thing we were thinking. All right, throw me that fastball. I will be ready for it. And look how quick he was. Okay, now he gets to 3-2. We'll see if it settles the kid down at all. But Rayburn was waiting for it. Big pitch of the ball game here. A chance to add on for the Indians.
A small but boisterous crowd here at U.S. Cellular Field. Runners will be off on the payoff pitch, and it's fouled. Almost got Kipnis, who went into a tumbled coming down the third base line.
Well, you better get
Stop,
way
drop,
over.
and roll.
No kidding. You see, you got to go way outside the line. He had to duck. Boy, he just got down out of the way, too. Go that way. Go backwards.
Go backwards, young man.
You'll be able to score.
Rodon ready. And the rookie's payoff pitch. Popped up, foul, out of play. The last time the White Sox had the 3rd overall pick in the draft was 1977 when they used it to take Harold Baines. Now Rodon deals. And Rayburn jam punches it to left field for a base hit. Kipnis scores. Around third, coming home is Brantley. He scores as well. And Ryan Rayburn delivers off the bench in a pinch with a 2-out, 2-run single to make it a 4-1 Indians lead.
He pulled the hands in nicely. He stayed with the fastball. That might have been inside for a ball, but Ryan, he was dead set. I'm going to get that fastball. He knew it, and I think it helped. He saw so many pitches, but a big clutch 2-out base hit gives the Indians a 4-1 lead. Both those runs will be charged to Noesi. Big 2-out base hit there, a little breathing room.
Rayburn's now hitting 5 in a row. Swing and a miss by Lonnie Chisenhall. Indians at first and second, and that does indeed close the book on Hector Noesi, who's charged with 4 runs on 4 hits and 5 2/3 tonight. Did he chase? Let's see. They appeal. No, he did not go.
I don't think so. He wanted to.
It was borderline.
Yes, it was.
Moss at second, Rayburn at first with 2 away. And the 1-1 to Chisenhall. Shattered the bat. And the third baseman Gillespie able to throw him out. But the Indians played a pair here in the 6th. Ryan Rayburn with a 2-out, 2-run pinch hit single, 4-1 Cleveland.
At our new 2-story bar with our $13 district ticket. It is presented by Sports Time Ohio, and the new bar is the best place in town to grab a cold one. And with the district ticket, your first drink is on us. Go to visit Indians.com.
New pitcher is Scott Atchison after Carlos Carrasco is lifted after 5 innings of work tonight. Adam Eaton was able to roll a bunt up the third baseline that stayed fair back in the 3rd inning. Big bouncer to second baseman Jason Kipnis. One away. Tonight on Fox Sports Live, the Tigers will try to stay red hot, and the Cubs bring up another star prospect. Full highlights from across the diamond. Plus, LeBron and the Cavs try to jump up 2-0, while Ovechkin and the Caps try to avoid a 3-1 hole. Plenty from the NBA and the NHL. It's all tonight on Fox Sports 1. Melky Cabrera 0 for 2 on the night. They got by action. It's into center field. I think anybody that's wondering why Carrasco is out of the game after only 60 pitches and 5 innings of work, it goes back to the conversation we had earlier, working off of what Mickey Callaway said, with Carrasco missing a little time in spring training, and he hadn't really built himself all the way up to where they needed him to be, and then the unfortunate incident last week at home, and really hadn't pitched in a long time. So
well,
I think it's more precautionary than anything.
Well, we'll find out after the game, because Carrasco had 60 pitches, and you would think that's not many at all.
No. Perez can't find it. It's behind the umpire, and down the second goes Melky Cabrera.
Let's check it out. It's a wild pitch. It's going straight down. He went for the backhand instead of trying to smother it, more or less, thinking he was going to pick it. So he lost sight of that ball. That's when you just sort of let it go into your chest protector, and he does that very well. He didn't that time.
Abreu takes a slider over the outside corner, and that'll even the count at 1-1. Two and 1 to count here for Abreu. And Atchison goes right back to that slider to even the count of 2-2. Zach McAllister from the right side, Mark Zubchinski, left-hander, up in the Indians bullpen. Atchison missing outside. He's run the count full. Payoff pitch, swing and a miss. He strikes him out, and look how frustrated Abreu is, slapping at his bat.
Well, that's
he heads back to the dugout.
He was able to get him to swing at that pitch earlier in the at bat, and it was a ball. So as a hitter, you're saying, all right, I saw it, I'm not going to swing at it again. But Atch didn't give in. He went right back at him, and that's the frustration you see from Abreu right there.
Matchup baseball. It'll be the left-hander Mark Zubchinski coming on when we come back. 4-1, Tribe on top. White Sox batting with 2 outs. They got a man on base. Let's go down to Andre Knott, who has more on the Indians bullpen situation right now.
Yes, a lot of people are questioning, is Cody Allen available today? He is available. Matter of fact, Tito Francona says he hopes he can put him out there on the mound tonight. He said he's his most dependable guy on his team, and he wants him to get back out there as soon as he can to get the taste of yesterday out of his mouth.
All right, well, he's got Mark Zubczynski in there now.
Well, he may get an opportunity if this bullpen can hold it that long.
4-1 lead. McAllister is warming in the bullpen. There's a swing and a miss by Adam LaRoche, who is 0 for 2 tonight. Zubczynski was up last night but did not get into the game. Ball gets away from Perez, but no advance by Melky Cabrera. The Indians lead it with 2 out here in the bottom of the 6th. LaRoche fouling it back. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Another 1-2. Swing and a miss. He got him to go fish. And the inning is over. No runs, a hit. 1 man left. We go to the 7th. Indians 4, White Sox 1. Cleveland.com to learn more. By Levin Mattress, located in all Levin furniture and freestanding locations. And by AT&T Uverse, has more channels on the go than cable. For 1, the Indians lead it as we go to inning number 7. Roberto Perez leading off. Carlos Rodon still in there for Chicago. He got the final out of the 6th, but not before he gave up a 2-out, 2-run pinch hit single to Ryan Rayburn. Perez takes a strike outside edge. Wow, just missed. This guy's got a big-time fastball, though.
Yeah,
for a
he does.
left-handed pitcher.
Yeah, mid 90s. It looks like he's got a hard biting slider as well.
That one got away from him.
But you talk about the command, and it's like a lot of young pitchers. Once he learns how to command it, he's going to be tough. But right now, you have to have a little patience with him. At least tonight, first time we've seen him. They just called him up to start this series, so we had a feeling we'd see him at least once.
Looped foul, and Abreu can't get there.
But they also have Zach Duke, a left-hander out there. Jennings, who's throwing the ball well against the Indians, another left-hander we've seen. So they've got 3 left-handers that look pretty good. Not to mention their closer, David Robertson.
Three-two pitch. A foul right back. Three-two pitch to Roberto Perez. It's up high, ball 4. And the Indians get the leadoff man aboard. Time for a Mazda game break. Here's Al. All right, here's Jose Ramirez. 0 for 2 on the night. And Rodon almost got him. Well, that was up and in, and Ramirez dropped the bat alertly to get out of the way. You know, I was thinking, Rick, some fans, White Sox fans in particular, might take issue or even wonder why Robin Ventura would choose to bring a rookie in his first spot and guys on base and tough situations
instead of a clean inning.
But, you know, when you're a rookie, there might not be an easy spot. You might think it's, well, we'll bring him in with nobody on base, but it's still going to be a little unnerving and a little unsettling until you get your feet under you.
Well, yeah, but he must have proven to them in spring training and what they've seen to this point, this is what I want to see this kid do. You come up, he's got a chance to get out of the inning facing a left-hander. Then they throw a pinch hitter in there after he walked the first one. So that's something you come in and you learn about. It's a young man. How does he handle under pressure? And it's a big league situation.
Jose Ramirez in a 2-0 count.
It probably would have been the better deal to start him in the fresh inning if you could, but that's what he's out there for. You have to find out what he's all about.
That's called to be thrown into the fire.
To be honest with you, yeah, it is, and I'm sure he did. But you know, I said at the time I thought he was going to leave Noesi in to face Moss because he struck him out the first 2 times he faced him. You know, so I thought he had an opportunity to stay in there. If he didn't get that one, then you still got the lefty on deck. You can bring in your left-hander. But that's Robin knows his team a heck of a lot better than I do.
And like you said, it might have been a case, I want to find out about this guy.
What can he
How
get?
does he handle this tough situation?
Sure.
2-2. Down low, full count.
Well, right now he's having problems throwing strikes and finding the strike zone. He has great stuff. You know, he's throwing more balls than strikes. 15 balls, 12 strikes out of the 27 pitches.
And the payoff. He did not go around, and he's walked the first 2. Let's go back and take a look at the at-bat between the youngster and Ryan Rayburn.
Well, what helped Rayburn here is missed the first 2 times, so he's taken all the way after he walked the left-hander. There's the fastball he got to look at. He misses again, so now he knows all he's going to throw is a fastball. So Ryan was in swing mode because he was not worried about a slider. And that's why he fouled off a lot of pitches, and he even got the fastball in off the plate where he pulled his hands in. He could eliminate the breaking ball, and the veteran hitter he is, he got a base knock to add on for the Indians because he knew he was getting a fastball.
Michael Bourne showed bunt, pulled it back.
I got to see Don Cooper come out here again. There's no way you can let him go. You walk the 8 and 9 guy, and he's all over the place right now. But this is where he's going to get his work. I would think he would get work in games when it's not on the line or when you're younger, till you prove you can go into certain situations.
Well, Cooper doing all the talking with 2 on, nobody out. Michael Bourne at the plate, nobody throwing in the Chicago pen.
Yeah, 4-1 game now. He's out there. He's going to get his work in. Yeah, you know, a lot of times you can go out and you tell a young kid who's just drafted last year, about 35 innings in the minor leagues, you go, hey, just relax, don't worry about it, trust your stuff, throw strikes. It's not that easy to comprehend.
Bourne showing bunt, bunts it to the third baseman, and Gillespie will throw him out, sacrificing a couple of runners into scoring position. Over 60 live events, 2 networks, 1 month. It's April in the OHIO, and you can win a terrific sports experience by texting Tribe on STO to 733-733. You can win lunch with manager Terry Francona and 18 holes of golf with Jimmy Hanlon and Carling Nolan. Text Tribe on STO to 733-733. Message and data rates may apply. Infield in.
For
Jason
me,
Kipnis takes ball 1.
this is a must add-on situation. They're going to give you another run here. You got to get 1 in right here in this inning just to add on and make it a 5-1 game, the way the offense has been, to keep going.
Good pitch outside corner for a strike.
Yeah, this guy, I would think, as an offensive player, has got to be tough to face because he really doesn't know which way it's going. And as a hitter, you don't know what to sit on and what not to.
Up and in.
See what I'm saying? Back and forth, in and out, and up and down. It certainly does help when you get ahead in the count, so you can sort of keyhole a pitch or look for a good fastball.
Rodon's 2-1 pitch, and Kipnis,
there you go,
lifts it to deep left field. Back is Cabrera on the track at the wall. He makes the catch, slams up against the fence. Tagging and coming home to score is Roberto Perez, and the Indians add a run to their lead, make it a 5-1 ball game. Kipnis almost drove that baby out of here.
Yeah,
he'll get his 4th run batted in on the year.
Well, you want a base hit, but he did his job, and that's the thing you add on. You got a fastball, he hit it to left field where it was pitched. Cabrera has to go back and make a nice play, but they get the run home. It's 5-1.
And with 2 down, Michael Brantley, the batter.
That's a gift run. Walking the first 2 guys, a sacrifice. They have a run without a hit in the inning.
Brantley takes, it's outside. Broken bat single up the middle. It's through. Coming around third base. Ramirez will score. And the Indians have equaled their season high with their 6th run of the night.
Attaboy. Now it takes a little pressure off. Michael gets another 2-out base hit. So they make him pay for those walks to lead off the inning. A nice sacrifice fly after a sacrifice bunt, and then you get a 2-out base hit, and what do you know? 3 straight innings the Indians have been on the board, and in the 5th and 6th, or excuse me, the 6th and the 7th, they put 2 on the board. So good job.
Back-to-back innings in which they've put up 2 runs each. They've scored in 3 straight innings. Indians also scored 6 runs in their loss to Detroit on April 11th. The 0-1, then Santana down and in. Carlos Rodon. It's been a rough debut for the left-hander. Up and in. He spun Santana out of there.
Had a tough time. He throws him a nice slider for strike 1. Santana swings over the top of, and he's just had a tough time commanding the fastball. It's all over the place. Come back with the slider. That seems to be the one pitch he looks like he's got a little more consistency with than with the fastball to me.
Now the 2-1. Way outside.
That might have been a changeup there. Now they're trying to work in the off-speed pitch, but I don't know how many changeups. That might have been the first one. I don't recall seeing any other ones.
Santana taking a strike. And a full count. Michael Brantley will be off at first. And the payoff pitch. Little blooper towards center, but out goes Johnson to make the catch. Indians get 2 here in the 7th. And they've opened up a 6-1 lead. Time now for the 7th inning stretch, brought to you by Spitzer Auto World. Here in Chicago. Hey, you can vote for the Indians franchise 4. Log on to MLB.com/franchise4 to vote. That's a tough call, picking 4 out of those 8. as all those guys have tremendous credentials. Avisail Garcia rolls one to short, and Jose Ramirez throws him out. One pitch, one away. Up comes Connor Gillespie. Zach McAllister's throwing in the Indians bullpen, so it might be that Zubchinski was on to get Garcia, face the left-hander Gillespie, and then maybe he'll go to McAllister.
Makes sense. He was throwing last inning, and I would agree with that.
Gillespie flied to left tonight, and he has struck out. The 0-1. Swing and a miss. Just kind of waved at it.
Yeah, he was fooled on that pitch, and once you start, he couldn't hold up.
The 0-2. Swing and a miss. Zubchinski strikes him out, and his night is over. He faces 3 batters, strikes 2 of them out, and makes quick work of Connor Gillespie.
Yeah, he didn't waste any time, did he? Went back in there with a fastball after a feeble swing at a breaking ball, and McAllister will come into this ball game.
Indians with a 6-1 lead here in the bottom of the 7th inning. We've got a timeout. McAllister's coming on when we come back. Two out here in the 7th inning. As we promised you earlier, it's Miller time, brought to you by Miller Lite. Carlos Carrasco. Just great to see him back out there first.
Yeah.
But also, Rick, he was free and easy and no apprehension whatsoever.
Yeah, and it looked like he was in mid-season form. He had a great changeup again tonight. He threw a lot of good changeups, sliders, had the strikeout ball working. Only 60 pitches tonight, but Carrasco looked great. He really did.
With 2 down here in the 7th inning, Zach McAllister coming on to get some work out of the bullpen. Figuring this is probably an outing where they'll try to get maybe an inning in the 3rd, maybe more. No longer a save situation. Ramirez swing and a miss. It's 0-2. Alexei Ramirez doubled in the 2nd inning and then grounded out his last time up. 6 runs on 6 hits for Cleveland, 1 run, 5 hits for the White Sox. Yankees lead the Tigers 5-1. They're in the 9th inning in Detroit. Rip foul. Boy, even with the injuries the Mets have suffered, they still roll. They are 11-3 on the year now as they beat Atlanta 7-1 tonight.
Nice start.
At the rate things are going in Milwaukee, Brian Price, the Reds manager, will have nothing but sweet nothings to offer after the game. Cincinnati beating up the Brewers 13-6.
Boy, the Brewers really struggling.
Yeah, Milwaukee just 2-11 on the year. Lost 6 in a row. The 1-2. Spiked that one well in front of the plate.
You know what? That's something he's out there working on, man. He's got to get a feel for that breaking ball. He threw a very good one earlier in the at-bat. He left one up where Ramirez pulled it, and then he spiked that one. But he's got to get a feel for it, and that's a pitch he's going to have to throw.
Broke his bat, and Ramirez is retired to end the inning. We'll go to the 8th in Chicago, 6-1 Cleveland. And may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form. And the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without the express written consent of the Cleveland Indians. Hey, stick around for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. It comes your way right after the game. Here on Sports Time Ohio, Al Pawlowski, Jensen Lewis will break it down for you. From the cozy confines of the Sports Time Ohio studios, no less. I don't think it would feel as cold had we not had the nice weather we've had already early this year.
Well, we started this trip in Minnesota. We had 74 degrees.
Beautiful.
I mean, the first 2 days of that trip, very nice. And, you know, the third wasn't bad. You know, we escaped without a rain delay, which is very good. It's just the Windy City had a little too much wind, and it's damp.
Carlos Rodon in his big league debut, 1-1 pitch up high. He's had trouble just commanding his fastball.
Yeah, and for a young pitcher, you know, you would expect that. He came in a situation and gave up a couple of the runs to the starting pitcher. But It all started with Brandon
this guy.
Moss.
Yeah, right here.
And he didn't throw him a strike. He walked him and then thought he was going to have to face Murphy, but a big pinch hit by Ryan Rayburn. With 2 outs.
And for a team that has been starving for an offensive rally, the Indians scored 2 in the 6th, 2 more in the 7th.
Well, they had a run in the 7th without even a hit.
Moss thrown out here to start the 8th, 1 down. Well, it is time now for the Pat O'Brien play of the game, and that pinch hit by Ryan Rayburn is going to do it. Bases were loaded. There were 2 outs. It was a 3-2 count, and he pulled the hands in and punched it to left, driving in a pair.
Knowing he was going to get a fastball all the way, it turned a 2-1 game into a 4-1 game, and it let some guys relax a little bit, I think.
That's the Pat O'Brien play of the game, and now there's Rayburn with his 2nd at bat of the night. Out of play. Rayburn has 7 RBIs now on the year and
trails only Carlos.
Redbird tells me 5 of them have come with 2 outs. So he's getting the money makers.
Well, and I think the White Sox, again, this is his team. He has more RBIs, more homers, and the best batting average of anybody in baseball against the White Sox.
Well, Ryan Rayburn is Central Division born and bred.
Yeah.
A little bit low, 1 ball, 2 strikes. He told Andre last night that the division has definitely gotten more competitive. It's tougher top to bottom. It's the one difference that he has seen in the division.
Well, something they have to do now that we are entrenched in our own division. 2-7 coming into today in our own division. You have to win. And everybody, in baseball, stuck in their own division playing baseball for the first month of the season. You have a few floaters out there, but for the most part, from here we go into Detroit, then we come home and play Kansas City. So you've got to turn up the dial.
Boy, he punches this one to deep center. Eaton back on the track at the wall. He's out of room. It's out of here, I think. No, it's off the top of the fence and stayed in play. Great effort by Adam Eaton. And somehow Rayburn has robbed of a home run because that ball apparently hit the top of the wall and didn't clear.
Well, I think Terry's going to ask him to take a look at it. It looked like it bounced. When it bounces that high, it has to go over that yellow line, doesn't it? Let's take a look. Eaton, effort. I think it did.
Did it hit right on top? It sure did. You can see the dent. You can see the mark. It sure did. It made an indentation on the pad, the yellow padding.
Well, it's so cold out there. It's not gonna spring back. They want him to take a look, but I think it did catch the top of the pad.
Watch the indentation it leaves, Rick.
Yeah.
Boom.
There it is. It sure did.
It's like a ball mark right where it went.
So cold. All right, they're going to talk about it. But it did. It stayed in. I guess that was a good call. But Rayburn, another double for Ryan Rayburn.
No challenge?
No, I think they got it right. They knew it. They were out there. They see it.
So Ryan Rayburn doubles off the top of the wall.
That's double number 5 for Ryan. And that's an inch away from being a home run. Having back-to-back nights where you get a homer.
Checked on the ball inside. 2-0. Ryan Rayburn, being that he's the right-handed bat, is an important part of this lineup, and the fact that he's off to a good start might give him some confidence and get him going again.
Well, I hope so.
After last year was just such a disappointing season for him. The injury and just didn't have the same kind of year swinging it that he had the year before.
Nothing ever clicked for him last year.
Well, Lonnie Chisenhall 0 for 3 on the night. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Chisenhall, a swing and a miss. 2 down here in the 8th. Now it's time for the Hyundai in-game box score. Ryan Rayburn coming off the bench, and what you don't see is that, at the bottom, David Murphy, he was the starter in the DH spot. He had homered, and then Rayburn came on. 2-run single, and now a double in this inning. Roberto Perez walked and scored in the 7th. Rolls one to short, and Alexei Ramirez throws him out. We'll go to the bottom of the 8th. 6-1 Cleveland.
Sox 6-1, and Zach McAllister is in the game. And talking about Zach McAllister's role with the team now that he's not a starter, the team looks at it as kind of a good thing in 2 different ways. One, he can develop himself as a pitcher. The other thing is they said they can use him whenever necessary, whether it's in the back end of the bullpen or if it's in the front of the bullpen, or a night like tonight where they can extend him. He can help in all those roles, guys, now that he's in the pen.
Well, that's a great point, because with his fastball, he's got the ability to come in a one-batter situation if need be, but he's also stretched out to where if you need multiple innings, he can do that with no problem. And I also wondered too, maybe being in the bullpen, being around those guys on a daily basis, if in some way that could help him to eventually tinker with and develop that breaking ball, because that's the one thing that's keeping him from really taken his game to a whole different level.
I would agree with that. If he could take hitters off that one pitch, whether it be a changeup or something off,
just something where they can't just sit on the fastball.
You got to prove it to hitters that you can throw it consistently, though. You just can't throw one and have a good one like he did in his last at bat, and then end up 2 or 3 hang. I mean, you've got to be consistent throwing at least 2 pitches if you're going to be a starter. But yeah, it'll make him a different pitcher if he can.
A little bit low. Full count. Tyler Flowers, Micah Johnson, and Adam Eaton due here in the 8th for the White Sox. The 3-2. Fouled back. Got him looking. Painted a 96-mile-an-hour fastball in the outside corner, and Tyler Flowers' argument going to fall on deaf ears.
Well, it should, because it was a good pitch. I mean, it's a full count. What are you looking for? It's a fastball. It's right there.
I'm going to guess that his complaint is, well, my guy didn't get that call, is kind of the thing.
Okay. Well,
I don't think he has any merit there.
Throw that pitch there.
No, that's exactly right. You may have thought that pitch was there, but it wasn't. Wow, I might have spoke too soon on that Cincinnati-Milwaukee deal. It's now 14-10.
Oh, you're kidding me. It's turned into a softball game.
Milwaukee just kicked a field goal.
They've been struggling to score runs, too.
Yeah, a couple of clubs that are scuffling. Reds had lost 7 out of 10 coming in.
Yeah, there's still a lot of baseball left there because it's only the 7th inning.
Reds have hit 5 home runs in that game. Milwaukee has hit a couple, but 14-10 Cincinnati in the 7th.
Not done yet. We'll let you know on the 2-minute warning.
The 1-2. Fastball hit on the ground to short. Jose Ramirez makes a good throw across. 2 away. Hey, Saturday MLB returns, starting with a Central Division battle when the Indians take on the Tigers in a game you can only see on Fox Sports 1. Then it's the return of the Subway Series as the Yankees take on the Mets. Coverage begins at 12:30 Eastern on America's Home for Baseball every Saturday, Fox Sports 1, and streaming live on Fox Sports Go. Adam Eaton 1 for 3 on the night with a bunt single. Swings and misses. Liner towards center. Bourne on the move. He can't get to it. Knocked it down on 1 bounce. And a 2-out single for Adam Eaton.
Yeah, there's a sinking liner going away. He didn't get a real good jump on it. Well, that ball hit way in front of him, but at least he caught it. He smothered it and gets it in.
Runner at first with 2 gone for Melky Cabrera. 1 for 3. He had a single his last time up. And he takes ball 1. Up and away. 2 balls, no strikes. Nick Hagedorn now gets loose in the Cleveland bullpen. 2-1 pitch is outside. 3-1. There's the big left-hander getting loose for Cleveland. Hagedorn, or rather McAllister with the 3-1 is in for a strike. Full count on Melky Cabrera. And with 2 away, Eaton will be off at first. Well, you talk about a great start to a year. Last year, Melky Cabrera hit in 25 of the first 26 games of the season.
Yeah, with Toronto. Yeah. Well, you get up there and it's a dome. You have some turf to hit on. The ball can scoot through.
3-2 pitch. Up the middle, it's through. Adam Eaton will go to third, and now the White Sox have runners at the corners with 2 down.
Okay, a pair of 2-out singles now by the White Sox. They're trying to climb back in, and they've got their big boy coming to the plate. So this will be the last hitter for McAllister. Hopefully he can end this inning. And then you have Hagedorn start the 9th. But it's a big out to get right here without letting those White Sox get back on the board. That's 7 hits now for the Sox. The Indians have 7 as well.
Base hit right field. That'll score Eaton. Melky Cabrera stops at second base. 3 straight 2-out singles in the 8th for Chicago. And the Indians' lead is now 6-2.
He just stayed on this ball. It was elevated. It was off the end of the bat, but he finds the hole between first and second. So with 2 outs, they get 3 straight hits. McAllister's going to be finished for the night. Hagedorn will be on to face the left-hander as Terry walks to the mound to take the ball.
Timeout in Chicago. 6-2 Cleveland.
Summer long with a mini plan starting at just $109. Each plan includes 6 Friday, Saturday, or Sunday games. It's available for 4 locations at Progressive Field. Just go to Indians.com to check it out.
Adam LaRoche, the batter, 0 for 3 on the night. He's 0 for 7 in the series, and he's punched out 5 of the 7 times. And Hagedorn with a good fastball in for strike 1. Seventh appearance on the year for Nick. He's walked 3, struck out 7 in his 6 innings of work. And the 0-1 just missed. Running outside corner. So he went inside for a called strike, one away, and it's just off the plate. Cabrera, Abreu, the base runners, with 2 away. Out of play. And Hagedorn 1 strike away from getting out of the inning. Day game tomorrow as the 2 teams wrap up the series. 2 o'clock Eastern start here at US Cellular Field. We'll have it for you right here on Sports Time Ohio. And now LaRoche steps out. Perez goes out. It's a 1-ball, 2-strike count. Indians have the 3-man shift you see on the right side of the infield. Robin Ventura's club has actually out-hit the Indians 8-7. Down on the dirt, 2-2. But 3 of those hits have come consecutively here in this 8th inning, all with 2 outs. Eaton, Cabrera, Abreu, with Eaton scoring. Now Hagedorn trying to put the fire out. 2-2 pitch. Up high, full count. Avisail Garcia would be next.
Well, I see Shaw in the Indians bullpen if LaRoche reaches.
Hagedorn ready. Runners will be off. 3-2 pitch. Fouled back. Once more, a 3-2 pitch with Cabrera and Abreu moving. Here it is, and it's a ground ball up the middle. Ramirez has it, long throw to first. Santana can't dig it out, and the bases are loaded.
It's hard to see. Did that ball get into the dirt?
Sure did.
Okay. So a low throw here by Ramirez going to his right.
He had time to plant, too.
Yeah, he did. That was a short hop that Santana couldn't pick it on the backhanded side.
So on the air, the night is over for Hagedorn. He faces 1 batter. He's out. Shaw's in. Bases loaded, 2 down when we come back. They're in a tough spot again. Bases loaded, 2 down. And Brian Shaw coming on now for Cleveland. Is his 8th appearance of the year. No wins, a loss, and ERA .491. He's walked 4, struck out 2 in 3 2/3. He's got Avisaíl Garcia, who is 0 for 3 tonight. 2 for 4 in the series, or 2 for 7 now in the series with a double.
Well, a big out here after the Sox offense came back last night. You got to put an end to it right here. They had an opportunity. The error kept the inning going by Ramirez. There's only the infield has made 2 errors all year, and it's been Ramirez both times.
And it's outside ball 1. The 1-0 to Garcia. Good pitch. Little slider down.
It was down. I saw a lot of people jump over there on the White Sox side. He thought it was down, but he gets the call.
Swing and a miss. He chased a high heater. And now Brian Shaw's 1 strike away from getting out of the inning. Only 3 head-to-head battles between these two. All have gone Shaw's way. Cabrera's at third, Abreu at second, LaRoche the runner at first. And Shaw the 1-2 pitch. Popped him up. Moss into foul territory. Did he hold on or did he drop it? He dropped the ball once he hit the side rail. Looked like he had it for a moment. Boy, that keeps the inning alive, gives Garcia a second life.
All right, there you go. Oh, yeah, that's catchable ball right there. I know it takes a little concentration as you're reaching up, but he had a chance, and it goes off the finger of his glove. And then he hits the wall. He couldn't hold on to it. So they will get another swing at it.
Garcia still down on the count 1-2. He's a career .357 hitter with the bases loaded. A little bit outside with a fastball, and it's 2-2. Melky Cabrera, Jose Abreu, Adam LaRoche. Shaw with a 2-2 to Garcia. Got him. Oh, did he challenge him and tied him up with a good fastball? And the White Sox lead them loaded. They do get another run. But after 8, it's 6-2 Cleveland. the bases juiced. Last night he came in and he got a huge strikeout of Jose Abreu that looked like that, for all intents and purposes, would really end the White Sox night.
That's a big strikeout tonight.
But he gets
ending it right there where they can't carry on any of that momentum. So a very good pitch. They've been working with him, maybe a little longer stride to get a little more tilt on that breaking ball. A couple of big strikeouts the last 2 nights for Brian Shaw.
Another left-hander. Zach Duke will start the 9th for Chicago. Jose Ramirez, Michael Bourne, and Jason Kipnis due for the Tribe. Cody Allen getting loose in the Cleveland pen. And Duke in with a strike to Ramirez, who walked and scored in the 7th. Duke was a 20th round pick of the Pittsburgh Pirates back in 01. Four years later, made his major league debut, and he went 8-2 in 14 starts for the Pirates with a 181 earned run average. And you had to figure they're thinking, boy, we got something special here. It was a 10-game winner the following year. Rolled the short, big hop though at the end for Ramirez, who throws out Ramirez. Stay tuned after the game for Indians Live, presented by Conrad's Tire Express and Total Car Care. But in 07, Duke, really, his fortunes went the other way. In 20 games, he was 3-8 with an ERA of 5.5. 2008, he was a 14-game loser against his 5 wins. And things kind of just continued along those same lines. He just, now granted, he didn't have great teams around him, but never really was able to get on any kind of a roll. Pirates traded him to Arizona.
How about that arm angle there? A little crossfire.
Missed inside. He was signed by Houston as a free agent before the 2012 season, and then they released him at the end of spring camp. Signed on with the Washington Nationals a couple of days later.
You may just want to go around and wait for Houston to let some people go. Designate them, release them, and go after a few of their players.
Missed inside. Full count. Yeah, they've had some ones I'm sure they would love to have back. Payoff pitch to Bourne. Low, ball 4. One out base runner here in the top of the 9th. It'll give Jason Kipnis an opportunity to bat with a man on. He's 1 for 3 tonight. Sacrifice fly drove in a run in the 7th. Michael Bourne has 1 steal. He's been caught once, but under these conditions, highly unlikely he'll be running. Kipnis takes, it's in for a strike. Cold and damp, 43 degrees current temperature.
Yeah, the dampness it is. It's
Bourne takes off. They throw to first, down to second, and they got him. Bourne caught stealing for the 2nd time this year, and there are 2 down in the 9th.
Yeah, it takes 2 good throws there. Where you see where Abreu came to the inside part of the bag where he had a lane to throw it to Ramirez where he could apply the tag. So he went on first movement and he guessed wrong.
Inside 1-1 to Kipnis. One pitch and a foul into the Chicago dugout. Zach Duke ready with a 1-2, and he swings and misses to end the inning. We'll go to the bottom of the ninth. 6-2 Cleveland. Let's look back at our keys to the game, brought to you by Wayside Furniture. Early response. So the Indians got down early, and they came right back. Carlos Santana homered, and they just continued to peck away offensively. Got another home run from David Murphy, and then they put 2 in the 6th, 2 in the 7th on the board. Carlos Carrasco really did a nice job. Showed no ill effects from the line drive that struck him his last time out. Pitched well, though he only went 5 innings. That more to do, we assume, with just where he's at after not pitching for quite a while. In the meantime, Cody Allen will start here in the 9th inning. And it's not a safe situation, but I think because of what happened last night, Terry Francona wants to get him back out.
I agree. Yeah, he said so. Let's go. Let's get him back out there. He has the opportunity.
Gillespie is 0 for 3 on the night. Couple of strikeouts. The only drawback to this situation is that, and again, we'll have to wait and see how this plays out and what Terry says after the game, what Cody feels like you might not have now for tomorrow should you get into a save situation.
Well, you have Kluber pitching tomorrow, so you figure he'll go deep into a ball game, I would think.
The 0-1 tried to hold a swing up, but no, he didn't go around, says Quinn Walcott down at third. Here's the 1-1. You'd say cut him off, but that happened 2 innings ago.
Yeah, there's only 76 people sitting out here now, so.
Maybe they got tired.
No, they'll get it going again.
There they go again. Cody Allen into the line of the 1-2. And that's up high. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Cody Allen is the 7th Indians pitcher to work here tonight after the starter Carrasco. Now the 2-2 from Cody. Missed inside, full count. Scott Atchison went 2/3 of a scoreless inning. Mark Zipchinski worked a scoreless frame. Zach McAllister charged with an unearned run in his 1 inning of work. Nick Hagedorn faced a batter. That batter reached on the air. Then Bryant Shaw 1/3 of an error, 1/3 of an inning, scoreless. And now Cody Allen, payoff pitch. Threw it in there, but it's fouled right back. How about Boston beat Tampa 1-0?
I see that down there in Tampa.
Now the payoff again to Gillespie. Popped him up, but that is not going to be playable. Oh!
First throw right on the dugout. Yellow hat. I don't know if he got the ball.
It got him.
Yes, it did.
Rocking the old Seattle Sonics gear, huh? Cody Allen again takes the ball on top of the bump. It's a 3-2 count. Lengthy at bat. This will be the 8th pitch coming to Gillespie. And the 3-2 is a fastball on 1 hop. Kipnis flags it down from the outfield grass. He throws him out. 1 down.
Yeah, that ball wasn't hit as hard as it looked like it was. It floated into the hole right there where Kipnis took his time and got set and planted to make a good throw. Looked like it was going to get in there from our angle, but it must have gotten inside on Gillespie.
Now Alexei Ramirez, slider for a strike outside corner. He's 1 for 3, doubled back in the 2nd inning. Ramirez on that double. You'll notice his jersey's got a big dirt stain on it. He went face first. As he dove into second base, he had his arms outstretched, but his hands got stuck in the dirt.
Did a face plant is what he did.
Take a look back. This couldn't have felt too good on a cold night.
No, because when you come in there, you expect your arms to be out in front of you, but they were behind him. Boom. He led with his head. Yeah, that's a tough slide.
He's down on the count here, 0-2 after that foul ball got him as well.
It's so much easier now to go in feet first. A lot of people like to go head first with those slides, but it's dangerous.
Is that more because you're not going to get a strawberry on your leg?
Could be. I don't know. It depends on. Some people like to go head first, thinking that it's going to get them there quicker. I think there's more margin for injury when you go head first on some of these bags. And it could be that strawberry. Once you have one there, you want to slide somewhere else. Well, he's going to have one on his forehead tomorrow.
laughing because it's not me.
Well, I know.
But we see that a lot of times too with outfielders. You make a great diving catch, and a lot of times the head hits the ground as Alexei Ramirez is punched out, 2 down. Fastball at the knees, right on the corner.
Yeah, that's, I think, strikeout number 14 for Tribe pitching tonight.
Yep.
8 coming from Carlos Carrasco, 6 coming from the bullpen.
Here is Tyler Flowers, 0 for 3. He has struck out twice tonight. Takes low and away, ball 1. Flowers unhappy with home plate umpire Eric Cooper when he was called out on strikes in the 8th inning. There's a strike over the outside corner. These don't appear to be like young kids behind the plate either, but they keep going to the same tired chant. The 1-1, a little bit low.
No comment.
Flowers awaits the 2-1.
I don't think he liked that call either.
I don't think he did.
He just, he's not a big fan of Eric Cooper's strike zone tonight. Well, throw another one out there.
Here's the 2-2.
They are.
Swing and a miss. He struck him out to end the ball game. The Indians win it by a final score of 6-2, and they even the series at a game apiece. What a big bounce back for Cody Allen as he sets them down 1-2-3 here in the ninth, striking out the final 2. Carlos Carrasco gets the win. He goes to 2-1. The loss will go to Hector Noesi, who's 0-2. Indians with the win are 5-8. White Sox with the loss are also 5-8.
Well, a good bounce back from yesterday's ball game to come back and get the win here.
Yeah, all the way around. Big for Cody Allen, but also big for everybody in that lineup that chipped in tonight. Carlos Santana, David Murphy, Ryan Rayburn, Kipnis, Brantley. Yeah. Even Roberto Perez and Jose Ramirez with a couple of walks. Hey, that got a rally started with a couple of runs in the seventh inning.
And you know, they did the little things there. You had 2 walks. They had a run in an inning without a hit. You know, sacrifice fly, a couple of sacrifices. Then Brantley get a 2-out base hit. You add on. Now you have a chance to win the series with a great pitching matchup going tomorrow. You got Samardzija against Kluber. So, you know, it's a big win, and the Indians need it to take 2 out of 3.
It'll be a fun one.